In the Swedish city of Linköping, the cathedral hosts the region's most prestigious St. Lucia celebration. Hundreds flock to witness the procession every December 13th. To be chosen as Lucia, here is the highest honor. The selection process is intense. Auditions, interviews, even background checks. They seek perfection, a girl who embodies the light and spirit of the tradition. In 2003, Sarah Bergquist was that girl. Talented, beautiful, everything they were looking for. The organizers had chosen the perfect Lucia, but they made one critical mistake. They never checked if the previous year's Lucia was ready to let go. Because some girls who wear the candle crown become so attached to the role, they'll do anything to keep it. This is the story of Sarah, the girl who came before her, and what happens when someone refuses to give up their place in the light. Sarah was ecstatic when she got the news. Being Lucia at Linköping Cathedral was a dream come true, an experience she would cherish forever. She dove headfirst into preparations, learning the ancient hymns, practicing the procession's graceful movements, and being fitted for her white robe and crown of candles. Everything felt perfect. Well, almost everything. The previous year's Lucia, a girl named Emma Svensson, wouldn't leave her alone. It started with a simple congratulations message, which seemed friendly enough. But then came another, offering tips and advice. Then another, and another. Soon, Emma was sending multiple messages a day, insisting she could help, that she could coach Sarah to make sure she did it right. Sarah politely declined. The cathedral provided professional coaching, but Emma's insistence grew. She started showing up everywhere Sarah went. At rehearsals in the vast, echoing cathedral, at the costume fittings, Sarah would turn around, and there Emma would be, just watching. Always watching. Worried, Sarah finally complained to the cathedral organizers. They spoke to Emma, gently reminding her that it was Sarah's year now. Emma had to let go. Emma seemed to understand. She apologized and promised to leave Sarah alone. For a few days, the messages stopped. The calls ceased. Sarah felt a wave of relief. But then, strange things began to happen. Sarah's pristine white costume was damaged. Someone had crudely cut the hem and burned small, deliberate holes in the fabric. Then, her crown of candles went missing. It was later found in a dumpster behind the cathedral, scratched and bent. Someone was clearly trying to sabotage her. Sarah's first thought was Emma, but she had no proof. The cathedral staff dismissed the incidents as unfortunate accidents. They repaired the costume and fixed the crown, assuring Sarah that with the ceremony just 3 days away, everything would be fine. 2 days before the procession, a small package arrived for Sarah. There was no return address. Inside, she found an old photograph dating back to the 1950s. It showed a young girl in a Lucia costume standing inside the very same cathedral. But something was deeply wrong with the picture. The girl's face had been violently scratched out, leaving a gaping hole where her features should have been. On the back, written in neat, elegant script, were the words, "Some Lucias never finish their procession. They stay forever, just like me." Terrified, Sarah rushed the photo to the organizers. They recognized the cathedral's interior, but not the girl. The photo was 70 years old. Whoever she was long gone. They told Sarah to ignore it, assuming it was just Emma trying to scare her with a childish prank. The ceremony was the next day. Sarah needed to focus, to rest, and to prepare. But Sarah couldn't rest. The photo had burrowed deep into her mind. She started digging through the cathedral's archives, searching for any clue. She found scattered references to a Lucia from 1952, a girl named Karin Lindstrom. Karin had been chosen to lead the procession, but on the morning of December 13th, she had vanished without a trace. The procession was canceled, and the tradition was suspended for a year. When it resumed, Karin's name was never mentioned again. It was as if she had been erased from the cathedral's history. Sarah found one last piece of the puzzle, a brief newspaper article from 1953. Karen's body had been found. She was discovered in a disused maintenance closet within the cathedral, where she had been for nearly a year. She was still wearing her Lucia costume. The investigation concluded her death was an accident, and the case was closed. Karen was forgotten. Sarah presented her findings to the cathedral organizers, demanding they take this threat seriously. This was no longer about Emma. This was dangerous. The organizers grew concerned and called the police, but there was little the police could do. Sending an old photo with a creepy message wasn't technically a crime. They couldn't take any action. As a precaution, they increased security around the cathedral and assigned an officer to stay with Sarah. The ceremony was scheduled for 5 o'clock the next morning. They promised her she would be protected. Sarah tried to believe them, but the image of the scratched-out face and the chilling message haunted her. Some Lucias never finished their procession. What could that possibly mean? December 13th arrived, dark and freezing cold. At 5 in the morning, Sarah and her 7 attendants, all dressed in white, gathered at the cathedral. Her parents were there, along with the cathedral staff, security, and the hundreds of people filling the pews. Sarah put on her costume, the white robe, the red sash, and finally, the crown of real flickering candles, as tradition demanded. She gazed at her reflection in the mirror. She looked beautiful, perfect, a true Lucia. But then she saw it. In the mirror's reflection, standing in the doorway behind her, was another Lucia, another girl in white, wearing an identical crown of candles. Sarah spun around. The doorway was empty. She looked back at the mirror. The other Lucia was still there, only in the reflection. The girl smiled, a slow, unnatural smile, and reached out, her hand pressing against the glass from the other side, as if trying to push her way through. Sarah screamed. Staff and her family rushed into the room, asking what was wrong. Sarah pointed frantically at the mirror, at the other Lucia. But when they looked, they saw nothing but Sarah's own reflection. They chalked it up to nerves, to the immense pressure of the day. They calmed her down, assuring her she was safe. The ceremony had to begin. Sarah took a deep breath and led her attendants into the main hall. The procession started down the center aisle, their candles casting a warm, flickering glow as their voices rose in song. It was beautiful, ethereal, perfect, until Sarah saw her again, the other Lucia, standing in the crowd, wearing the same costume, the same crown, but her face was a scratched-out void, just like in the photograph. A blank, empty space where her features should be. Sarah's voice caught in her throat. She stopped walking. Her attendants bumped into her, confused. The audience began to murmur, but Sarah couldn't move. She could only stare as the faceless Lucia stepped out of the pews and into the aisle. No one else seemed to see her. The faceless Lucia started walking toward Sarah, her movements stiff and jerky, as if her body had forgotten how. Sarah stumbled backward. Her attendants grabbed her arm, asking what was wrong, urging her to continue. But Sarah was frozen, her eyes locked on the approaching figure. The faceless Lucia reached out a hand, its touch impossibly cold, and placed it on Sarah's cheek. Sarah felt a horrifying sensation, as if something essential was being pulled out of her, drawn into the faceless void. As she watched in terror, the scratched-out features on the other Lucia began to fill in, to take shape. They were becoming her features. The faceless Lucia was stealing her face. It was becoming her. Sarah let out a final piercing scream and ran. She tore herself away and fled the cathedral, out into the pre-dawn darkness. Her attendants, her parents, the cathedral staff, everyone chased after her, bewildered. They found her collapsed in the snow, sobbing and clawing at her own face, trying to remove something that wasn't there. She was rushed to the hospital, where she was sedated and diagnosed with an acute psychotic episode brought on by stress. After 3 days, She was released. But Sarah never recovered. She said a part of her had been taken during that procession, something vital. When she looked in the mirror, she no longer recognized herself. She felt like she was wearing someone else's face, living someone else's life. The cathedral launched an internal investigation. They questioned Emma, who vehemently denied everything. She insisted she had moved on and seemed genuinely hurt by the accusations. They believed her, so who sent the photo? Who had been tormenting Sarah? The questions were never answered. The ceremony was completed by one of the attendants, and the cathedral implemented new protocols, psychological screenings for all Lucia candidates, on-site counseling, and tighter security. They couldn't risk another incident. Sarah eventually moved away from linkapping and changed her name, trying to escape the memory. But she still feels like an imposter in her own body. Sometimes, when she catches her reflection, she sees her own face begin to blur and scratch away, just like the girl in the photograph. Just like Karen from 1952. She feels herself being erased, replaced. The cathedral learned a powerful lesson that year. Being Lucia is transformative. For some, the honor is so profound, they can't let it go. Not even after their year is over. Not even after death. The Linköping Cathedral still holds its Lucia celebration every December 13th. If you ever attend, watch the procession closely. Most years, it is a beautiful, flawless ceremony. But on some occasions, witnesses have reported seeing something strange. They claim to see two Lucias, one leading the procession, bathed in light, and another trailing just behind her in the shadows. This second Lucia has no face, just a blank, empty space. She walks behind the chosen girl, mimicking her every move, learning, waiting for the right moment to step forward, to take what she believes is rightfully hers, and to finally become the Lucia she was meant to be. The wrong Lucia, forever seeking to be right. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this dark content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling stories from the shadows of the North. Comment below and let us know where in the world you are listening from. Thank you, and good night.